I know. I'm thinking the exact same thing. And unfortunately, the time has come where I have to admit that there's an oversaturation of Psych NPs. And it came a lot sooner than I thought. And unfortunately, there are several different reasons why we're gonna be oversaturated real soon. And in this video, I'm gonna be going over 5 reasons why I believe that Psych NPs will be an oversaturated market. So stay tuned. Welcome back to another episode of Life of a Psych NP. If you are new to this channel, let me formally introduce myself. I'm Darty. I'm a board certified psychiatric nurse practitioner, and in this channel I go over several different subjects to educate the public about mental health, ways to improve your lifestyle, topics related to nursing, nurse practitioners, and specifically psychiatric nurse practitioners like myself. So if you are interested in any of these topics, feel free to subscribe. Make sure you like this video because it helps me out so much with the YouTube algorithm, and follow me on Instagram at LifeofaPsychNP. So you probably clicked this video because you're thinking, is there an oversaturation of Psych NPs right now? And I personally don't think so, but it's definitely trending that way. And unfortunately, the way it's going, it's gonna be happening real soon. And I've noticed subtle signs that I think it's gonna be headed that way. And I figured I might as well just talk about it and actually give you 5 reasons why I think it's gonna be heading that way. And if you're thinking about becoming a Psych NP, don't let this deter you, because if you're a great Psych NP, you're always gonna be able to get a job and pretty much succeed. It's one of those things where it goes by survival of the fittest, right? So if you are a great provider, you're gonna survive. And if you're a terrible provider, unfortunately, it's gonna be a little bit more difficult for you. So it's best that you kind of prepare yourself. Like I said, I'm not here to tell you not to be a Psych NP, because that's who I am. And I always encourage everyone to become a Psych NP. But I wanted to kind of give you these subtle signs that many people don't necessarily realize, especially if they're wanting to become Psych NPs, and that are subtle signs that we're headed towards oversaturation. So without further ado, let's get started. But before we actually get started, make sure you stay until the very end of the video, because this is gonna be my main reason why I think the field is starting to become super oversaturated, and it's gonna affect all of us. So the very first reason why I believe the Psych NP route is going to be an oversaturated field is because more and more schools are popping up, and more schools are accepting Psych NP students without any nursing experience or psych nursing experience. And I'm not saying that psych nursing experience is absolutely guaranteed, but I think the bigger issue is that schools are accepting nursing students, or actually Psych NP students, that have no nursing experience at all. And unfortunately, that's the case. There are a lot of schools out there, and I'm not going to name them, but there are a lot of schools out there that are accepting students without any nursing experience. And this just kind of looks bad for any type of NP program, but specifically Psych NP, because this popular specialty is starting to become extremely popular. And the more popular that it is, more schools are gonna jump on it, and unfortunately we're heading towards a trend of just exactly like the FNPs, where there are a lot of different schools online that are accepting anybody, and anybody with just a nursing degree, they're gonna accept them. And unfortunately that's the case, and I'm starting to see the trend, and I'm starting to get a lot of comments and DMs and messages about people getting accepted into these programs without any experience, and them just barely graduating. I think I heard about one person getting into a DNP Psych NP program, or MSN Psych NP program, that hasn't even graduated from the actual nursing program, and they haven't even taken boards. How crazy is that? And it kind of sucks because it makes us Psych NPs look bad. So the second reason why I think this field is heading towards oversaturation is because more and more students are finding it way more difficult to find preceptors. Back in the day, it was super easy to find preceptors because you would network and you'd find a preceptor. And for my school, they were able to find preceptors based off of their alumni, and we were able to just get preceptors. They would assign preceptors to us. But now that I've been graduated for almost 3.5 years, it's getting more and more difficult to find your own preceptors. Even for the people that are willing to pay some sort of honorarium, it's getting way difficult for them. And I hear some outrageous amounts of prices out there, $20, $30 an hour, and they're still having difficulty finding preceptors, and I think it's nuts. And even all of these agencies hitting me up back and forth with so many different students asking for me to be a preceptor, and unfortunately with so many different students out there and all the qualifications of these students, it's harder for me to accept these students, and I'm not willing to take on 10, 20 students. Screw that, that's way too much work. And unfortunately, the trend is heading towards that route. And if you think about it, if there are not that many preceptors that are willing to precept all of these students, and there's abundance of them, it's crazy. So you can already see that a lot of students with not that many preceptors, a lot of them aren't, or maybe if they find a preceptor and graduate, there's going to be a way abundance amount of providers, and yeah, it's definitely headed towards the oversaturation route. So the third reason why I think it's heading towards oversaturation is there are fewer and fewer and fewer jobs in these big markets. So you're talking about LA, San Francisco, New York. You're talking about these huge markets where there's so many different job opportunities out there and so many people needing mental health services out there. There are fewer and fewer jobs. When I'm comparing the job market now compared to when I graduated, there's not that many jobs out there, and it's starting to become super duper hard to get these jobs. And you're seeing that a lot of these jobs are being taken. Being taken, and when you look at the jobs, like say for example Indeed, when you look up the jobs on Indeed, you're gonna see that 20, 30, 40 providers are applying to these jobs that are open. And that's crazy amounts, because before, when I graduated, I feel like I'm super old, but before when I graduated, maybe 1 or 2 people apply, and these job openings would last until like 60, 90, maybe even over 6 months. And you can also see that, and now it's just like jobs are being taken and being applied for. So many different opportunities out there before compared to now, and I think we're headed towards oversaturation, and that's just my idea, but who knows. So the fourth reason why I believe we're headed towards oversaturation is because it's getting longer and longer for people to land jobs. So like I said, I'm kind of comparing myself, and I'm not saying these are guaranteed reasons why we're heading towards there, but from what I know is when I graduated and the people that before me graduated, they were pretty much handed opportunities left and right, especially for the jobs that they, or especially for the locations that they precepted at. I was offered 4 to 5 jobs when I graduated, and by the time I passed boards, I already had 2 jobs in place. Actually, I even had 2 jobs in place before I even passed board. So it definitely shows you how fast you can get jobs back then. But now, more and more people are graduating, and people are having a longer and longer time in between from their graduation date, passing boards, and even landing a job. It's getting longer and longer. I know a lot of people out there that have had their license for, or their certificate from the ANCC, they've had for over a few months, and they're having difficulty landing a job. How crazy is that? And I never thought this would ever happen this soon, but with more and more people having difficulty finding jobs, you can already tell that this is going to be a difficult time for a future of Psych NPs, and you can see we're heading towards the oversaturation area. So the moment you guys have been waiting for, and my 5th and final reason, and why this is the main reason why I think we're headed towards oversaturation of our job field as Psych NPs, is because pay is going down. And as you know, when demand is high and there's not that many people out there, our pay is going to be a lot higher. And now that our demand isn't as high, you're noticing trends of pay being a lot lower. So before, when I graduated, the pay on average was anywhere from $140,000 to $180,000 on average. I'm not saying that's a low end, I'm not saying that's a high end. But when you're looking at it now, you're looking at anywhere from 110 to even 130, which isn't bad, don't get me wrong, that's really good. But you'll see some jobs on the very, very low end. I know when we were talking about it on the PsychNP forums, some jobs are even being offered out there for $40 an hour, $30 an hour, which is way less than just nursing. And I've seen some jobs out there for, in California, 50 to 60. Southern California, someone's putting a position out there $50 to $60 an hour, and many NPs are applying for it, which is crazy. And they're not just FNPs, Psych NPs. Well, I don't know, but for the most part, many people are applying for this job, and they're willing to take a job that's $50 to $60 an hour. An hour, not per patient, an hour. And I think it's crazy that you're seeing this trend, and I didn't think it'd be this serious, especially this early on. I knew maybe 5-10 years down the road you'll see this, but it happening only 3 years after I or 3.5 years after I graduated, basically 4 years after I graduated, that we're seeing this trend now. It's crazy. And honestly, it's pretty disturbing if you think about it. And I understand that there are other ways to be able to kind of combat oversaturation, and I wish there are ways around it, but it's gonna happen, especially with all of these schools. When I attended school, there are only main ones in Southern California. So you're looking at Cal State LA, you're looking at Azusa, Cal State Long Beach. Those are kind of the main ones. Now UCLA is coming out with one, West Coast is coming out with one, other Cal States are coming out with one, Charles Drew has one. All of these online schools, it's crazy out there. And unfortunately that's the case, and that's something you can kind of have, or that's something that you have to deal with. And if you're thinking about being a Psych NP and you're on the fence and you're heading that way, do it now, because sooner or later, by the time you graduate, it's going to get a lot more difficult for you to land the job and get paid as much as you want. And unfortunately we're kind of seeing that already. And yeah, it's kind of tough out there, so make sure you do it now. And unfortunately, if you're kind of a few years back, this may be something that you have to deal with in the future. But I'm not saying I'm not trying to discourage anybody from being a Psych NP. I'm just saying actually look into this and make your decision on whether it's worth it or not. I think it's always going to be worth it, because at the end of the day, you want to be able to treat patients. But if you feel like you're only going into this for a specific reason because of the pay, nope, you're not going to be necessarily getting what you want, especially if you're falling too short into the game. So definitely think about that. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope I was able to kind of shed light on my thoughts about oversaturation. And I'm not saying all of these reasons are the main reasons why it's going to head towards that, or if it's going to head towards that, because things shift, things change, and with kind of that pandemic, it's opening up a lot of opportunities to be able to help patients. Unfortunately, depending on what they're going through, a lot of people are going through really similar things. So this is an opportunity for us to be able to help a lot more people, and that's why we need more providers. But like I said, think about oversaturation and think about if it's going to affect you or not, and go from there. Well guys, have a wonderful day. Until next time, bye.